I've got one good reason why you should vote, but I assure you there are millions of reasons why you should vote. The reason that I'm going to give you is actually a person. And as I've learned his story throughout my years, and as the years have gone by for me, and I've gotten older and way older than he ever will be, it makes it kind of harder and hits a little bit closer to home. The person I'm going to tell you about is my great uncle. He was my grandmother's brother. His name was Leroy Huddleston. He joined the 515th Coastal Artillery Regiment, which was a big group of men from New Mexico that went to go fight in the war, and these guys all got stationed in the Philippines. If you know your history, it was pretty rough for those guys in there. After the Japanese hit Pearl Harbor, within 12 hours, they were in the Philippines, launching an invasion of that. The Japanese thought that they could take out the Philippines in just a matter of weeks, but instead it took nearly 5 months, and it was thanks to these American soldiers along with the Filipino people. They had these guerrilla fighters called Huts that were absolutely imperative to keeping the Americans alive, but they fought with them because they were fighting for their homeland as well. Leroy survived the invasion. There was another thing called the Bataan Death March, and it is a 65-mile march where if men fell, got weak, or whatever, the Japanese either shot or bayoneted them. They got a cup of water and a bowl of rice each day as they did this march through the jungles. And the Japanese soldiers that oversaw that actually got sentenced to death because of the absolute sheer brutality they imparted on these men. Leroy survived the Bataan Death March as well. Then they took those men and they loaded them in ships and sent them to mainland Japan to become slaves. And nobody ever talks about that. But Leroy was sent to Osaka. He worked in a slave labor camp there. They worked these guys to death. And it says he died in 1943. They don't know when. That's just all they know. But there's an interesting twist in the story is next to the prison camp, they said that there was a Buddhist monk monastery, and the monks had talked with the Japanese prison guards, and they asked that whenever these American soldiers died, they wanted to take the bodies. Well, the Japanese guards didn't want the bodies anyway, so they were happy to give them to the monks. Well, unbeknownst to anybody, the monks were taking the bodies of the POWs back into their temple, and they cremated them, and they put them in urns, and then they put the dog tags on them, and they held them throughout the war. So the war ended in 1945, and it took until 1946 before the monks were able to explain to the U.S. forces there that they had all these urns with all these soldiers so they could send them back. And Leroy was one of them. So they got his ashes back and his dog tags, and they brought him back to New Mexico, and they buried his remains in 1948. American bureaucracy, of course. It took 2 more years. But anyway, but this is Leroy. So this is my great uncle. He was 21 when he left, and 24 when he died. So I've got a good 31 years on this man. So my reason why you should vote is it's Leroy Huddleston. It's men like him and countless millions of other Americans that have made the ultimate sacrifice that gives you the freedom to do what you do today. And if you choose not to do it, it just kind of makes me sad because there was a lot of sacrifices to get us here. I mean, a 21-year-old kid who enlisted and went off to war and died at the age of 24, never to have a life, never to have a family. I can't think of a better reason not to vote. So anyway, you didn't vote, go vote. Anyway, and even if you're not supporting my candidate, that's okay. I want you to vote because people made sacrifices to get us here. So take care, guys.